Independent music, the triangle of musicians, fans and music professionals. This is Tim from the Indie Bands blog, and welcome once again. Who's on today? Let's go find out. Welcome to Indie Music Tips number 8, and we're having a look at performance, and I'm speaking to Paul Liddell, singer and songwriter from England. Hi Paul.
Hi Tim, how's it going?
I'm very well, thanks, and thanks for sparing me the time. I do appreciate it. Now, it was February 2010 that I first wrote about you, and you're one of these guys that's always up and down the road playing your music to crowds. But I also know that you've done a little bit of live streaming as well, which I think is quite an interesting area. But perhaps we could start by talking about how you managed to get so many gigs, because lots of bands play to their local venue and can't get much further than that.
Yeah, well, I just find it a great way of meeting people, so I'm always motivated to find new places to play. And also being a solo artist, it's actually easier than having to sort the logistics of working with a full band and everybody getting time off at the same time. So sure. It's kind of like a streamlined process. And yeah, I mean, it's not a hard thing to do, getting gigs. The hard part is getting gigs that are actually worthwhile doing, and
yeah, the magic trick. Yeah,
doing, that's the tough part.
You're pretty well perennially touring, as far as I can tell. Looking at the gigs that are better, the ones that you say the worthwhile gigs, how difficult are they to secure?
Obviously, because they're slightly higher profile and they're better for you and your music career, then there's more people trying to get them, so they are a bit tougher. You've just got to make sure everything's nice and sharp. Keep your website up to date and have some good videos on YouTube, and that really helps in terms of getting some gigs if people can see you before they decide to book you. It's also just about people, I think, as well. People tend to make the mistake of just sending people off emails at random as if they're just a stranger, and it's really more about building up a relationship with a person at the venue or the promoter, and that really helps in terms of getting gigs. It's just like getting to know people, really. That's the way I treat it, and it seems to quite well.
Once you've got I know that you've played. I'm down in Cambridge, and I know that you've played down in Cambridge. Once you've got a gig in somewhere like, say, Cambridge or maybe Exeter, and you're based up in the northeast of England, how do you go about, and what responsibility do you see that you have to promote that gig, or do you just leave it to the promoters and hope for the best?
Well, when you've never played in an area before, it can be difficult to get people to a show. I do always try. I mean, all the gigs get put on my website, which gets quite a lot of visitors. So you do get people turned up random that you've never met before. But I think it's kind of like a joint venture. You should try and get people down, but it's also the job of the promoter to try. It's not kind of one person's responsibility. You should both be working at it. I mean, before I do any gig, I do try and promote it to the local press, just to try and get people down. And I do it on social media as well, and my website, just to try and get the word out, really.
Yeah, I'm a subscriber to your email list. I don't subscribe to many, but I do subscribe to yours. And when you are playing, you do always let people know, and in fact you give them plenty of notification of forward gigs, which I think probably helps, because there seems to be a danger that people just promote on the day, forgetting that actually people have got diaries.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're all a bit guilty of that last minute thing, I think, but it does help to give people a bit of advance warning, definitely.
Mm. Live streaming, that was another subject area that I was quite interested in, because in this world of international communication, where we're all talking at people, it can be quite difficult to do something different and stand out from the crowd. Live streaming is potentially a way to do that. I know you've had some experience, some good and some not so good, but what are your thoughts on live streaming as a potential to get yourself to a new marketplace?
I absolutely love the concept, and when it has worked for me, it's been brilliant. You tend to get people on there just at random, so you
Right.
always playing to somebody that you've never been in contact with before, which for me is brilliant because it's just a chance to convert new people to listeners of your music. So it's a great opportunity. And also, if you're playing up and down the country, you know, it's sometimes a bit of a hurdle to get up and down all the time, and it's costly to get there, the price of fuel and everything, and it takes a lot of time out of your life. It's a great way of being able to keep in contact with people that are further away on a regular basis and keep them interested in what you're doing without having to put the miles in and without having to take the time to drive down.
Sure.
And it's also great for people because it's kind of an inexpensive alternative, really. So I'm not sure as a financial thing when you sell tickets to your streaming thing. I mean, I did that once, but I kept the ticket price to 1 pence. A lot of people came along and watched still, and I used a service called what was it called?
Ustream?
Yeah, I've used Ustream before, but this one was called Stage It.
Oh, right.
People can leave you tips, and earned on the first couple of Stage It performances, I earned about as much as I would from the door money on a gig, and I sold albums from my website and downloads on iTunes as well. So it's definitely an effective means of promotion and keeping in touch with your existing fan base. It's very
I guess it's possibly a slightly different. I've used Ustream. I've not used the other one that Stage It at all, so I'm not sure how that works. But within Ustream, I know there's a lot of interaction that goes on. People do have the opportunity to comment and speak to each other, and it's a bit like a load of background noise going on when you're playing. Do you have the opportunity, or do you need to actually be typing, or do you just respond vocally to what you're seeing on your message board, or do you just ignore that completely?
I don't ignore it. For me, it's one of the best parts of the whole live streaming thing is the feel of like having a group of people together. It makes it into a little community and makes it feel more like a live performance. I try and respond to them. I either talk to people over the mic and the camera in response to the questions or what they've written, or I do some typing as well. So it's kind of just a mixture. I tend to keep an eye on it in between songs.
Yeah, sure. And what about where you play that? You can obviously go for the very expensive production venue if you want to, or you can play somewhere else. How do you typically do that?
I feel that doing a big performance thing is a bit counterintuitive, really, because it's not really what it's about. You know, it's anybody can come and see you at a gig, and I think it's just maybe about providing a different experience. So broadcasting from your own home is absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned, because it gives people an insight into where you live almost, and it's nice for people to see something a bit different. A gig from your living room is maybe something different that people haven't seen before. I don't think there's any harm in that. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a big production value, I don't think, because it's more of an intimate one-to-one type experience.
Yeah, I've always got the feeling when I've been thinking about it and spoken to a few bands about it that it should be that sort of at-home experience. You know, basically your audience are at home. They might have some friends around, but they're at home, and why not be at home yourself and make it that home party kind of thing?
Exactly. I just usually set up with a bottle of wine and get stuck in, and it's good fun.
That's, I mean, from your own perspective, your material is acoustic, and we'll talk a little bit more about your music. But what about for a band, a 4-5-piece band? Would you suggest that they played unplugged, doing an acoustic set as the right way to use live streaming?
I don't think I would say the right way. I would say it's an option, because it's good for a band to be able to play as a full plugged-in type thing. Then you can just take your webcam and your laptop along to a gig and just stream the gig, and that works fine. I've done that with my band as well. But it also gives you the option of stripping everything back and giving your fans and listeners something entirely different, just to try an acoustic set. And I would say that's one of the best things you can do with it. Just use it to try new things and gauge the response. It's quite a useful tool for doing that.
So you can actually use it as for want of a better word, market research.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
That's interesting. Now, the other place that I've only used it a couple of times with other people setting them up is Google Hangout. Do you have any thoughts or views on that? I don't really know anyone well enough who's used it, other than I know it's there on my YouTube player.
Right. Well, when you mentioned it there, that was the first time I'd ever heard of it, so I definitely don't know anything about it.
Right. That shows how well Google Plus and so on are promoting Google Hangout.
Sorry,
I might get an opportunity to talk to someone who's actually used the damn thing at some stage. That's really interesting on the live streaming and also on the performance side. But you're also a recording artist, which is the other hurdle that the bands have, which is perhaps something else you could talk about.
Sure. I mean, it's difficult to kind of get to the stage where you're just earning a living from the output of your recordings. I mean, I personally earn my living from a mixture of live performance and album sales and stuff. So. But I think it's a very useful thing to do, to be able to record and produce your own stuff, and it's just nice to have your music out there, really, you know. So it's something that everybody should really be trying to do.
Do you record yourself, or do you go down and get it done, for want of a better word, through a professional team?
Yeah, well, it's a mixture of both, to be honest. It depends on the project. If it's a larger scale kind of thing, then I tend to go and use a studio. Having said that, a while ago I used to run a recording studio, and I kept a lot of the equipment, so I'm kind of like qualified to record myself as well, so I do a lot of it myself. And my albums have been a mixture of my own recording, and I use a great studio in Newcastle called the Clooney. The engineer in there, Tony Davis, is really good. It works very quickly, and it's important to get someone who's kind of sympathetic to your working style.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very quick. I like to get something done and move on. Only do 1 or 2 takes most of the time, and Tony's great with that. He gets it really quick, and that works. So yeah, I do a mixture.
Having worked both in a studio and a user of studio, obviously one of the things for many bands is they've never been to a studio before. They don't know really what to expect, other than the bills running, and they're working on a limited budget. What sort of tips would you give a band to say, okay, before you even think about setting foot in the studio, this is what you need to have done?
Yeah, make sure you know what you're doing before you get there, and make sure the songs are polished and arranged properly to the best of your ability. Otherwise, you're just doing it on the clock, and it's a waste of your time and money. And also, a mistake that a lot of bands make when they're first starting out with recording things is to try and cram too much into the amount of time they have booked. You know, really, you shouldn't be aiming to have 3 songs recorded in one day. It's much better to focus on recording 1 song over that 1 or maybe even 2 days, and getting something really good and making sure it's a strong song. I mean, it's not important to have as many songs online or available now. I think, you know, with the culture being moved away from albums because of the downloading thing towards singles, it's best to just have 1 really good quality product, if you like, as opposed to kind of spreading it out and trying to make the best of your time by recording as much as possible. I think it's always best to focus on just your best track at the time.
Yeah. And again, thinking from the performance side and actually selling that product, obviously you can go through these the services that will do the straightforward marketing. You can sell it directly yourself. How important is the performance element to actually selling the material you've produced?
Well, at the stage that I'm at, in that I'm an independent artist and I kind of do most of my own press and promotion, the live performance is a really good vehicle for driving sales of your albums. There's no better way really than getting out there and playing and showing people what you like. And you know, a lot of the records that I sell, I do personally face-to-face at gigs, and that's a great way of meeting people and making friends, and also getting them to come back to your next shows. So yeah, it's vitally important, I think, the performance aspect in terms of stuff.
Yeah. We've skirted round your experiences, but we've not actually discussed what it is that you're about, other than I mentioned some acoustic. What about Paul Liddell, the performer? What is it you do, and what's it all about?
I did play acoustic guitar, but the music itself isn't really what you'd call kind of folk or singer-songwriter, although I do get lumped into that bracket sometimes. I use a lot of live looping and vocal effects and guitar percussion, and it's quite a big sound. It sounds more like several people rather than just one guy. It's a very dynamic set, and my own stuff is kind of varied in style as well, so some of it kind of reminds people of Neil Young or Pearl Jam, and somebody was saying last night that I thought it sounded like James Taylor, which I thought was a bit weird. But yeah, it's a mixed bag really. But I just want to sound different. I'm not particularly interested in sounding like your typical guy with an acoustic guitar.
Right.
So I try and change it up and make it sound as different as possible, and that's really what I'm about.
It's been quite a long time since I actually wrote a review of one of your releases. It was back in, I think it was 2011, the Motorway, Miles and Motorways, I think it was called.
Motorways, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what have you been doing since then, and is there more on the, you've mentioned the single side, but is there more on the EP and album side due to be coming out?
Well, since Milestones, I recorded a live album, both solo and with my band tracks on it, and that came out in November last year, and that's doing really well. Sold more of that album than I've done any of my previous ones, so things are developing quite nicely, really. My plan for this year, I've been writing and recording. We did talk about singles, we touched upon that briefly earlier. I'm going to be releasing a single with a video in early July. I'm going to try and release a few singles this year. Just to try something different, really. And I've never gone down the route of music videos, really, before. I've done some live videos for YouTube, kind of a promo video, so I'm going to give that a try. And I'm also writing kind of a long, continuous piece of music for live performance, so it's like a one-man kind of musical. And I'm working on that for a performance as well. So that's pretty much what I'm up to at the moment. I'm actually producing another couple of artists as well. So that's interesting, but it's all going quite well, yeah.
So if someone wants to get to see you live, you're still as busy as ever? They can catch you at some point somewhere?
I'm always gigging. I've got a lot of shows in the northeast, but I'm also travelling around the country as well. They can find my gig dates on paulliddell.com.
I'll put a link to that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, gig dates are all on there, and there's links to my albums and shops and stuff on the site as well.
Sure. And what about if someone wants to, if someone is using StageIt or wants to set up a StageIt account, what's your username on StageIt so people can connect?
My StageIt account is no longer active. My Ustream account is Paul Liddell Music, and you can find my channel there.
Paul Liddell Music on Ustream. As I said, that's a platform I know, so I will make sure that I do hook up on that one. I'd be interested to hear more about the live streaming, to see if you keep that up and what's going on. And it does sound, from what you said, as though it gives you the opportunity to really get to know your fans a lot better than you do when you're standing on stage. It
is great for that. I mean, the one thing I would say about streaming is that you have to make sure your internet connection is working properly. Right?
Yeah.
I've had some problems with people saying, Paul, you sound like you're jittering, your voice is blurred and delayed, and it's a waste of people's time if you do that. And it's happened a couple of times. Once on StageIt, it was on American Thanksgiving Day, and everyone in the company was up in the mountains having a celebration, and their server went down in the middle of my performance, so I kind of got chopped. So that was the downside of streaming, really, is that you've got to make sure you have a quality connection. It's the upload speed from your end and the download speed from the other people's end. You need at least 1 meg upload speed in order to be able to stream kind of standard definition audio and video without jitter. So yeah, that's something worth checking before you try and do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a useful tip and a good place to finish, I think. And let's play out with one of your tracks. Thanks very much indeed for your time, Paul. Do appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. Cheers. See you soon.
Yeah. Take care.
Just a game show hosts. Our hopes and dreams become like ghosts. So free to fear the most, 'cause we are just a game show hosts. alright to live with letting go. I beware despair and cling to hope. But the more I live, the more I know that in my life I'm just a game show host. We of control. We of control. Free to fear you fear the most, and let your dreams become us ghosts. Mother Nature rearranges coasts. We are just the game show hosts. We rise.